Welcome everyone to the 8th and final class of the Cloud Solutions and API class in the data engineering track. So this class will be for informational purposes. This is Cloud Overall or Class Overall Introduction to Cloud Computing and API Integrations. And these are additional resources and readings to consider. So throughout this, I'm going to cover things like just giving everybody like a table of contents of all the class material, like where all the lectures are at, where the class videos are, some of the videos that we watch during class, and some readings so that you don't always have to go back to necessarily have to go back into the Slack channel. Slack channel will be open, but I'm putting it all in one spot. And then things to consider, like things we didn't cover in this class that you can continue to build on off of your knowledge. I'm going to talk about just data engineering as a career field, share my thoughts and opinions on it too. What to do with the Azure account that you have, whether to keep it or what you should consider. And some technologies and things like that I can point you to. So some readings, some additional thoughts and things. So can make this class really interactive too. So I know everyone's taking their final exam right now. We're probably taking their final exam. But at any point, feel free to stop and ask questions, and we can make as much of a discussion as anything. So happy to share my parting thoughts on graduates, and hope everybody takes these skills and is able to apply them in the future too. And these are those kind of things I'm thinking about, recapping the class and additional things you can take away with you. All right. Okay, so said there's a table of contents with lectures, videos, my favorite documentation and help, and then examples and data. So the lectures, I have these all in Google Drive where I've been sharing. You notice that I've been sharing Google links. They're all actually in a Google Drive, and I'll always keep those out there. From class to class, I may edit them and update those lectures and some of the videos also, like the class exercise videos. So you can always go out there and get new content as I update this. So all the lectures are on Google Drive. Always keep those out there, like I said. The YouTube videos, classes 1 through 6. I think I need to provide an updated link on that one. But I wanted to link everyone to the ODSA channel to be able to see all the classes. There's a video class project on Google Drive. That one doesn't look like it has the right link either, but I'll link everyone to the video that we had on Monday, the class project, so you can rewatch it. And I think it's already in Slack too, but I'll update it here. Then class exercise videos. So the examples that we did at the end of class, those are all in a folder. Looks like I have some of these links to update. I'll make sure that those are all updated so that whenever you go into this lecture that you can just go in there and click the links and it'll take you to whatever resource. So thinking of that, did I drop the link for this lecture into, did I drop it into Slack? I think maybe I didn't. I'll go ahead and do that right now too. Before I go too crazy so everyone knows where this link is. You can view this and refer to it at any time. Or even download it. You should be able to download it if you'd like. So put this one into Slack so that you're able to refer to it. Okay, there we go. There's the shared link in Slack. Okay. So going back to the slideshow. Right, so videos, these are videos that we watched in class. So you don't have to dig through like the slides or Slack to be able to do that. Some of the better ones, especially around um, compute with Apache Spec, Spark pools, and Synapse, serverless, dedicated Synapse, and then Azure ML. And then there's documentation at help and help. There's MS Learn. MS Learn just has everything. I mentioned it, but I'll link. I also have links to everyone when we start looking at the certification exams. They have like a bunch of mini videos for each one of the certification exams and like learning objectives and stuff like that. So if you wanted to go out to Microsoft to learn and build on this knowledge and then get one of the certificates, that would be the perfect place to do that. That's actually my plan after this class is for me to go through all of them and then get as many of these as I can. Go through the MS Learn course agendas and learning objectives and everything, and see if I can just get some of these. Stack Overflow, Reddit, two of my best troubleshooting places. Learn Azure in 12 hours is still awesome. I have no idea how they did that after this class or what they mean by 12 hours. But I still haven't watched the whole 12-hour film. I guess I'm going to have to do that in my sleep sometime. All right, examples and data. Rapid API. This was a really good one. I'm not sure if I showed everyone this, but I had it in my bookmarks the entire time, ever since like the second class. But it has a ton of APIs, like the data for examples of how to use. And so this the Rapid API is like APIs that facilitate the seamless exchange of data. So you have like Zillow, Twitter, LinkedIn, scrapers. What else? I hope my computer doesn't crash on me. Oh, and you can even see they have freemium. They'll tell you if it's paid API or some type of free or freemium. And then there's like some learning on here, like are there examples of free data APIs and software development kits for those APIs so you can do it in these programming languages and stuff like that. Just an awesome resource. I've gone out here for census data before. Because this census data, if you try to get it, it kind of works off of like the government websites, but there's a ton that you have to do to it to make it work. Just like a lot of things. Nope. Yeah, it's because I didn't have my
Did he just stop talking for anybody else?
Yep. Probably lost connection.
I'm glad it's not just me.
but it needs help.
Hey everybody, sorry for the delay there. Any technical difficulties, as Brenda said, that's putting it nicely, I think. Let's get back on track. I was showing everyone Rapid API. I believe, yeah, should still be recording. So it's still recording and the stream's still live. Okay, I see it live. Let me go back here to Rapid API. I was in the middle of that talking about census data when I knew once those error messages started to come up that it was only a matter of time. Plus I punted on the Windows updates for like the last 2 weeks while I was putting a class together. Like I have like 100 tabs open. Like I don't want to restart my computer. So but that was a restart that my computer must have just said it was time. That's enough of what I was doing to it. All right. So sorry about that. Okay, share the screen. So Rapid API, yeah. So government census data, I've had to do that for market analysis. And on the census website, it's really like not in a way that you need it. Like just like most of the time, the data is, which is part of what data engineering is all about, is making data and taking it from like a raw source to where you can actually use it for whatever application or report or dashboard. If I go here in work and they publish their APIs out there, so you could get U.S. housing market data, which is like one of the parts of the census data, is that they do like a household or home survey like every year or something like that. And this person's even like combined it with market data from like Redfin. So, which is neat. And then they provide it by API so you can get the data that way. It's really like a big marketplace, like one of those ecosystems, almost like an ecosystem anyway, but a marketplace where you can go and get data sets, which is really neat. Plus this all fits into like the concept we talked about of like data quality and APIs. Like APIs help improve data quality. You can go out here and get some standard data sets or data sets that people have already cleaned up and are offering for you to be able to use. So you can avoid some of that work yourself. So even any number of sports APIs and stuff like that, rugby live data, sport API. What's cool is that now you've learned some of the skills to be able to just go out and get this kind of data you want through Postman, or potentially writing code for it, or doing integration in Azure Data Factory or something. Return live events for given sports. You can get the API keys and they have documentation here and everything. Put that in Postman and then give it a try. This one looks to be super popular. Wonder if it's free, freemium service. Sometimes freemium, it's like free to start, but then you have to pay after you use a certain amount, or comes with strings attached. Like I guess this wouldn't be ads with the freemium or anything, but this is what their pricing is. Yeah, you get like 50 API calls per month. It's basically freemium, just to get you started. And then if you like the data, then you pay for a number of API calls or API requests. And then they have rate limits. So now you have the power with some of the things we did in this class to be able to go out and get that data, which I think is pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and go back. That tab was open for me for a while. It's a place that I've actually gone and got data from. Okay, let's go ahead and go back up. where we're at. And then examples, just Azure YouTube channels, all sorts of consultants and other people creating examples and demos of things. Like I borrowed in the class to be able to do demos for you that I wasn't able to create on a few things. But also gives me the idea of saying, hey, I should record some of these myself and just put them out there. And then becomes a valuable resource for the class. All right, keep going through it. Okay, where can you learn more about Azure? This is from our first class with just a couple of updates. So lectures, Microsoft Learn's the best. This is a class that I've taken in Udemy, the Azure Data Engineer Technologies for Beginners. It's supposed to point you toward, it does point you toward the 203 exam. So what's nice about this class is that when he goes through it, he has like really hands-on examples about like configuring these resources that we didn't get into. So in this class, we really just set them up with basic options. You get into more of that and performance tuning and really setting them up the way you wanted to, and a lot of questions around that. And that would prepare you a little more for the 203 exam. I initially for this class wanted to prepare everybody for the 203 exam, but it's just more than we could cover in this class. So the 203 is really like all these technologies and like configuring them and details about like compute and storage and optimization and stuff like that, which we don't really need to do that for this class, being like a high level survey and overview. But I'd highly recommend it. And you can watch these videos just little bits at a time and even pick up. A lot of it will be review for you using it, but kind of pick up on really like start digging into the technical details of some of these services, and even like the big data or configuring SQL Server and stuff like that. LinkedIn Learn has some topics there also. There's some books and learning that I found interesting. There is a Google GCP engineering practice exam that I found similar to 203. It's a Microsoft Forms exam. It's going to ask you a lot of the same questions like compute and stuff like that about compute. So part of an engineer's job would be, to set these things up and optimize them for performance and things like that, which we didn't really cover in this class. Documentation and help, and then videos, same as the last page. So with that said, what we didn't cover in this class, so only a limited amount of time in these 8 classes. So we had 24 hours basically to cover everything, really 21 because we used the last class as a working session, which is just great because we want to make sure everybody's able to apply the skills that they've learned. And there are probably hundreds of hours of learning and material out there, which is why I have to watch that 12-hour one to see how that guy actually did that. It's got to be an overview. But some of the things that you can really dig into, I put this graphic here to give a landscape of the things that we covered, and then you start to see some of the things we didn't cover, like Azure DevOps or functions. We didn't cover a lot of like the Azure Monitor stuff, which you can monitor like all the different databases and virtual machines and services and stuff like that. Didn't go that much into big data, but we covered a lot of this at a high level, even AI apps with machine learning. But one of the things for 203 exam that I was looking over the curriculum because I'm interested in taking that myself. There are a lot of questions about performance tuning and optimization and configuring those services. and monitoring tools, and then role-based security. So role-based security is like if you have a Microsoft account, like giving you the appropriate access to different resources or databases, or even having how services interact with each other. So part of this, I had to do this a little bit when we wanted the data lake to interact with Synapse Analytics. You have to sometimes put the appropriate roles on things for security purposes. It's really almost its own really boring class to go through. I don't get very excited about security, but when you're configuring these things and you're working in an organization, it can be very important. And plus it's also part of the 203 exam. We didn't cover the advanced ML and AI platforms like Databricks and Dataiku. Nate kind of wanted me to cover Dataiku. We covered Azure ML Lab instead. But even these Databricks and Dataiku, they're really nice as far as they have similar features as far as like bringing in data and creating analytical pipelines and your model selection and everything like that and deployment. So it's really similar to Azure ML Lab. I just chose that because there's the whole Azure theme. But some of these platforms go like well and above and beyond what we saw in this class and do some neat stuff. We didn't go too much into big data technology such as Hadoop. I think big data and like streaming services are kind of like niche use cases for like live streaming data or Internet of Things or like truly big data like fraud detection. They're like really specific use cases or AI. So just as a data engineer, oftentimes you aren't really doing as much as like those specific use cases as much as like just movement of data from systems using Data Factory or transforming it and putting it in a data warehouse or typing it in BI or Power BI or something like that. So if you really know the basics, even outside of the big data technologies, you can still get data engineering jobs that way. Didn't cover NoSQL too much, kind of niche use cases for each one of the technologies and different reasons why you would use them. They're usually very specific, although I think that you would use MongoDB the most within Cosmos DB because that's a document store. And that's how JSON format comes into you. But if you ever needed them or we're at least familiar with them in this class. So, and I asked an exam question on when you would use like NoSQL or maybe MongoDB too. Just knowing that it's out there and a potential use is good enough as an engineer, and then you can dive deeper into it later. We didn't do much about data redundancy and recovery. Azure has some of that built in, but that also goes to like the 203 exam. They talk about like redundancy across regions and stuff like that. So when you set up a new service or a new resource, sometimes they'll ask you what region you're in. There are like a lot of different tricks and redundancies that you can do to make sure that you have backups if like one region went down or something like that, which actually happened with AWS like probably a couple of years ago. They had an outage. So it's rare for these platforms to do it, but not entirely uncommon. Probably more useful if you're running like an e-commerce website on Azure to have it backed up and be able to bring it up somewhere else if you really need it. But important consideration with data potentially too, so you don't lose historical data or something like that. We didn't cover Azure Functions, that programming piece of it. You can put these in Azure Data Factory or Azure Synapse workflows or pipelines. But functions is like where you can have your own little environment for like Python code or C# code to do certain things or operations, and then run them within those pipelines. You can also do that in notebooks, which is why we did cover it in the class. One of the things I'm going to do is learn more about functions after this class. So Azure Functions. So that's why I put it in there. And then Microsoft Fabric. This is like the newest offering from Microsoft Azure. They just released a certification class on Microsoft Fabric, and I think at least on a demo basis, it's out there to use. But we covered it in the first lecture as far as the complete analytics platform, and it really brings together everything that we did in this class. There's a little learning thing about this. This seems to be what Microsoft is pushing for the future of the data platform in Azure. So it's just kind of like one of those things, like what's next for Azure. You can, like, it has generative AI built into it. Open AI service, it can create everyday AI experiences. And they have Microsoft Fabric, an end-to-end unified data analytics platform. Data Factory, Synapse, and Power BI into a unified product. So we're kind of doing that in our class project as far as bringing them all together. In their own way, they're all already integrated. I guess Microsoft Fabric's just taking that to the next level as far as being integrated for analytical purpose and collaborative platform. Could watch the video. Software as a service, bringing all those things together that we talked about. There's a certification out there. It would be interesting to get that certification potentially. And then say that you have that. And if anybody's looking for anyone who's, Microsoft Fabric experts, that may be able to get your foot in the door somewhere. All right, so Microsoft Fabric, just kind of covered that. That's one of the things I'm learning next. Some of the things I put in here, I'm also going to take a look after this class and start learning more about it. That's been on my plate for a little while, and I'm excited to learn more about that. All right, certification exams. So this is what we talked about at the beginning of class. The Udemy class that I showed you points towards the 203 exam, where you can easily scale up and down storage and compute on these different managed services. So it's really going to start to talk about optimization and what your compute sizes should be and store sizes, your storage capabilities should be, and then how to create a system out of that. And it even talks a little bit about pricing, like configuration and pricing. What I believe this class really points yourself to is the Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals. We've covered quite a bit in this class. So integrating, transforming, consolidating data from various structured, unstructured, and streaming data systems. So we didn't go into a lot of detail about this, but if I was to click on this, this is what's great about Microsoft Learn. It'll give you the how to prepare for it and the learning objectives and agenda and everything. But it's actually a beginner level class, which I would say we're all beginner. We're just beginning our Azure journey. You should be already familiar with relational and non-relational, different types of workloads. Let's see. Exploring Azure data storage. For non-relational data, we learned stuff like Azure tables or queues. Going more into Azure Cosmos DB. Let's see what else they have. Real-time analytics, exploring fundamentals of data visualization. I think that you could probably go into this class with your knowledge and probably build on it. And this one's probably the most immediately obtainable. And that one's the DP900, I think. MS900. And then they have a new Microsoft Fabrics analytics engineer. I have not a great idea of what this one entails. I was surprised. Oops. Actually, I think I have the wrong link there. Let's do DP600 T00. That is like T00. Oh, no, that's right. Implementing, I didn't recognize it, implementing analytics solutions using Microsoft Fabric. They actually, I was surprised when I looked at this. I thought they considered it an expert level. But you see they have a couple of different roles in here. They have data engineer and data analyst. They actually have different tracks in Microsoft either. They have like a data analyst and a data engineer track. And if you don't know what the difference between data analyst and data engineer is, data engineer is more like we did in this class. So like setting up systems, pipelines, ETLs, managing data for like the enterprise and analytical purposes. So a data analyst is more like a business facing person who like knows systems and knows the data, knows how to get it from a SQL database, and then turn it into information they need through like reports or Microsoft Power BI through visualization or even some analysis. They can analyze data and be able to give recommendations and stuff like that. So Microsoft does have like a data analyst role also. It looks like this one's a combination of both. So as a candidate for the certification, you should have subject matter expertise in designing, creating, and deploying enterprise scale data analytics solutions. We've done a little bit of that in this class. We know data lakes, covered more about data lake houses, warehouses, notebooks, data flows. It seems like this required a little like another certification. Like there's a prerequisite for it, but maybe not. But this will also combine things like stuff that you've learned, data modeling, like data warehousing, transformation, using SQL and DAX. DAX is like a formula and transformation language that you use in Power BI, like PySpark. So this is really starting to get like the hands-on skills to be able to do analytics if you're interested in that from a data analyst or data engineer perspective. And potentially achievable too. So being able to administer Microsoft Fabric, ingest data with data flows, Gen 2 and Microsoft Fabric. So using Gen 2 Data Lake and ingesting data, we've done some of that. Data factory pipelines, lake houses, Delta Lake tables. We didn't get into some of that. Querying data. So I mean, I would say this class gives you a high level overview to prepare yourself for like future learning and these certifications, whichever path you decide to go down. We did a fairly pretty good overview for what we could in this, and then you can go out to these and decide which tracks you want to do to learn more. You'll just dive deeper than you were in this class into specific things than we were able to dive in this class. And hopefully preparing you to be able to take any one of these. Yeah, I did note that it seems like the prerequisite was PL 300, so it's their Power BI data analyst associate, which is like transforming, visualizing data in Power BI and things like that. Getting data creating a model, data models and things like that. So I really wanted to point you to like the three of them that I thought were most relevant, particularly I think MS 900's probably the closest. It's a beginner data engineer class. I'd start there, and if you wanted to learn more about data engineer associate, that's when you really get into the nuts and bolts of like fine tuning and administration. All right. So your at Microsoft Azure subscriptions, we shift gears a little bit. I'm certain that since people use their credit cards, that they would want to know like what happens after a certain amount of time or how I could cancel my subscription. So this is how it works, is that you get $200 credit, and at the end of the 30 days, so we're coming up right on 30 days, this $200 are going to expire. But you have 12 months of free services. At the end of 30 days, Microsoft here pretty soon should ask you if you want to go to pay as you go pricing. So you have to accept this. Microsoft won't charge you unless you say you want to go to move to pay as you go pricing. If you don't do that, your subscription will stay live. You're just like now on their free services for the next 12 months. So their free services are certain levels of like Azure virtual machine, SQL Server database, blob storage. That includes Gen 2 storage, Cosmos DB, app service, Azure Functions, and Event Grid. So you have to be like on certain like level of compute for it. These services too, they won't let you like scale it up so far on the free version. But anytime you make a change, it will say, do you want to like start charging your credit card? They say that they will always like notify you before they do that. But if you're just worried about it and you're done with the subscription, there are some instructions here on how to cancel and delete your subscription in Azure and then what it means. So you should be able to go in and cancel your subscription. It gives you instructions how to do that in here. If you have any problems canceling your subscription and you want to do that, please just reach out to me and I'll help you do that. So hopefully in the future classes, they have enough time to set up like educational accounts through ODSA for this one, but hopefully we'll just have some of those that we can use and not worry about credit card. But I know that was a concern for some of us. So wanted to share that. Okay. I do a lecture, here's another topic. I do a lecture on data in the enterprise in the SQL 101 class, that data manipulation and management, we call it, or SQL 101. I'm thinking about taking this out as SQL 101 and just making its own lecture that we refer to. The SQL class is also, there's a lot packed into the SQL class that I teach. So in the future, I think like one class where we just do labs and work through everything's really good. But I've traditionally done this lecture on storing and managing enterprise data. I have a video that I've recorded for it that you can watch, but it does stuff like how data flows through the organization. And ETL processes, like extracting them from systems, landing them in a data lake, creating a data warehouse and things like that. Just like we've seen in this class, it's really applicable to this class from start. The whole class project is the idea of data flow from start to finish, all the way out to like creating your analytical models or your AI models and then presenting them in Power BI or different systems. So I can show you. I won't go into it in detail. I won't do a lecture here because you can watch it. You can watch it on video. I'll just go through some of the topics. If I take this out of the SQL class, I could potentially teach another SQL topic too. I could stuff another one in there. So data storage terminology, transactional and analytical processing, databases, master data management. These are all things that data engineers are concerned with. It's like getting data from transactional systems and creating like your analytical data models for your data warehouses, which is what I did with the crypto data. Master data is like managing the relationships, like standard like locations or patient names and stuff across all of your data or your enterprise would be master data. Data storage terminology, ETL, data management versus DBA, data governance, measuring data quality using Python, data dictionaries. These are all things data engineers are interested in the enterprise, or even people who are data analysts who are using SQL and Power BI would be interested in them too. Defining data, exciting stuff like that. Not so exciting stuff. I don't even get that excited about it, but some people do. I like building and creating cool things instead of managing it. But managing is a huge part of managing data is a huge part of it, which is why you have data engineers help. All right, and I have one on different technologies, so ETL tools, and then there's a little bit on Dataiku also. The presentation out here, ETL tools that you can use to supplement. So not just, you can do quite a bit in Data Factory, but these tools are like to help you manage at an enterprise level all these like ETL pipelines and data quality and things like that. And there are all sorts of different products for that, including Talend. It goes into this product called Talend. And then creating workflows in an analytical platform like Dataiku and NoSQL. A little more into NoSQL. Cloud computing, talk about cloud computing. And so forth. And then there's an exercise of migrating in database to Google Cloud Platform. So this extra lectures I've taught in the past that are relevant. So the last couple of slides we just talk about data engineering, AI in the enterprise. So this one talks about the future of data engineering and kind of why it's a good career and why it's a growing field to be in. Not necessarily selling it myself, but from learning this class, you can start to see like how important like the things that go on under the covers are. It's not just like all AI or flashy like advanced analytics like people want. There's a lot that has to happen under the covers just from like infrastructure and platform perspective, or managing data, helping deploy these solutions. So especially with part of what we didn't cover in this class is big data analytics. That's something that you can get into as a data engineer. Projected to grow significantly with the growth of AI and machine learning and Internet of Things data. Say Dice Media says projected growth rate of 37% by 2030. So I testify for this myself. A lot of companies will want to go and hire these data scientists to do all these fancy things when really they need like a data engineer or a or a BI developer first, like somebody who can build like a sustainable platform for doing things. Plus, oftentimes if a company ends up hiring a data scientist, that data scientist just ends up doing all this data engineering stuff anyway. That's kind of what happened to me myself. I think it's like you hire this person to do analysis and work with data and do these advanced things, but then there's all this stuff that has to go on under the covers to make it happen. And really, data scientists then start to become data engineers and lines that go over and everything. So one of the things people worry about, I underlined a couple things. I have the website is in like the notes section of this. I really highly agreed with this article for more reading, but I took a couple pieces out of it. So if you worry AI could replace data engineers' role, there's not really that much to fear. There's so much of this work that needs to be done, like in almost any organization that needs data. Talk to John C. Like, really, the AI and machine learning is like in a spot right now where it's like the standard tasks or those repetitive tasks, maybe data quality related, could be automated by AI, like data cleaning and transformation. But like to get to the big data stuff, you really need professionals who have like complex and like specific skill sets who can build these things, and there just aren't really that many of those people. In the near future, as they hire more, they'll need more data engineers and not less. You could say that about AI. Everybody could be worried about their jobs, but eventually at some point, but that point's not here, and data engineers are going to be would be in the middle of it. If anything, you'd almost, in my opinion, you almost have a job forever as long as AI is prevalent and you're engineering new solutions and stuff like that. Unless the AIs take over the world, and that's a whole different set of concerns. Career possibilities for data engineer. So I like this one a lot. So IT role, like data engineer is really considered like an IT role. It's the most like IT role that you have in data, with like setting up platforms and working with databases and programming languages and stuff like that. Often these people like were software engineers in the past, or some advanced system engineers or something like that. I really like the idea, if you can do an internship, that's great, but just start as a data analyst somewhere, really, and then just volunteer to do data things. Oftentimes then, like, you become a data analyst, you're familiar with systems in the organization, you're familiar with how data is created in the process. You already know cloud a little bit. If that role comes open in your organization, you could always volunteer to be a data engineer, and they'd perhaps even pay for you to learn more about it. Any IT job, it's just hard to get. Like, even when if I apply for things, like having been in this career for 16 years, I just go and get weird interviews sometimes, or weird technical questions that I don't know who answers them. But that's even a thing for me doing some of this, is like, it's hard to get. Sometimes they're looking for something very specific or very detailed, or sometimes, as Brenda's put it, like they don't know what they're looking for at all, which could be the case. I just recommend going and being a data analyst, getting used to it somewhere, if it's a marketing department or wherever you can use data in an organization. Build up your data analyst skills. You know about data engineering in the cloud. Maybe there will be a good mentor there who has done data warehousing and knows a little bit about cloud too, can teach you some things. It's all about learning and continuing to build on it, I think, build on your existing skill set. I don't know if I agree that the path is straightforward. Maybe in bigger organizations, the path is straightforward. But the roles available will depend on the size of the organization. I would potentially recommend to go in somewhere big if you can and to start doing data in a department, and jobs open up all the time. I know way back in the day, I worked at First National, and a lot of the people who they ended up with a centralized data team, and a lot of those people were just subject matter experts or system experts of the different systems, and then they came together. We all came together to do data. I was the rookie that they picked on, but they didn't necessarily have those skills, and then they just learned those skills on the job to be able to pull together their data. And then they were like the subject matter experts of those systems and data and knew what the departments needed and everything. But they got that opportunity because data was growing within a big organization, and those kinds of jobs opened up. So that's what I'd recommend. It was a First National Bank was a really good start for me in my career. Also, I just value it a lot, and they were using data in a way that not even a lot of places were at that time. So I'd personally recommend that route. But data engineering as a career, so career possibilities, we talked about data analysts. Data engineers are often people who have like some type of software engineering background, and they backed into data engineering. But of course, you could grow your data, you can grow your analysis and skill set the other way too. You may work as a software engineer first. Those jobs are kind of hard to get. Or a data analyst. I have some descriptions of these jobs here. Or even a database administrator, someone who's a database administrator, they become familiar with data, then they started to do more engineering. Similar slide, but it has this. So a data analyst, just more about data analysts. Data analysts enables business to maximize the value of their data assets. They identify trends, build data and analytical models, advance the capabilities through reports and visualizations. And I think the other classes in Omaha Data Science Academy prepare you all to be a data analyst too. And now with this class, you have some data engineering skills, and even with your model building and model evaluation classes, you have some of the data science skills too. So the potential's there. I highly recommend starting here. Plus you get if you're a data analyst and you start putting data together, you get to learn a lot about that business that you're into. I've been thankful for my career and being able to learn a ton about business just from the questions that people in management were asking, and then the data that went along with it. Data engineering skills. So what skills do you need? Let's see. A lot of the things that we did in this class, so cloud skills, visualization, potentially knowing a little bit of programming language and being able to get data from REST APIs, working with different types of data and platforms and so forth. But if you're a data engineer, these people are data engineers at heart. Or if you're like me, you had to do it anyway. You had no other choice, which doesn't mean that I regret it or anything, but it's just something that had to be done in skills that I learned on my own. Strong programming skills and understanding of distributed systems. To excel as a data engineer, know how to build complex database queries with SQL and NoSQL. I don't think you necessarily have to have experience with big data software, but it's becoming more common as machine learning and AI and like real-time analytics happen. So it's like skills that could be valuable to have. And then having experience in security and scalability will help you stand out as a candidate. And I probably agree with that if you're going to an organization where they don't have anybody. being able to know like role-based security in Azure and knowing how to scale and optimize. Those are good skills to have as a data engineer. Probably won't have them as a beginning engineer, but as you grow as a data engineer, adding some of those skills to your skill set or being able to do those things make you more and more valuable to an organization. Right. I don't think I actually put interviews questions here. I think this is just copy of what I did before, but I intended to put interview questions here. So I will, just with like a lot of things, I've run a little bit behind in this class. So I'll do some interview questions here. So I always think that those are valuable for potential questions that might be asked. And I said, you go into an organization, it could be anything really. Like they could put anybody in front of you and ask like a weird question or some. I've been asked a lot of irrelevant questions, but I'll put things on here that I think are relevant questions. Put some just general data engineering questions and then some Microsoft Azure questions too. So that's one thing I'll finish up for everyone. And that's it for this class. I did put a couple of the last things in the slide, in this lecture. These are really just reference things I thought were valuable. So what is Microsoft Azure? I like this graphic. It says Microsoft Azure is a lot. And maybe you could go look back on this in retrospect and say, hey, I learned quite a bit about these things. We learned about some of these cognitive services. Learned about, we didn't do a lot of Power BI, but it has integrated Power BI and Synapse Analytics. We didn't do that much with virtual machines, but we learned about storage, did Azure machine learning. We used MySQL database that everybody will always have access to. So I won't shut down the Microsoft SQL server or MySQL server. That'll just be out there for anybody in class to use. So you'll be able to log into that in the future and continue to use your database. Oh, what else did we do in this class? We learned about different aspects. We didn't do Azure Functions, but we did stuff like Spark. They have the Azure SQL Data Warehouse, which is part of Synapse now. It's just kind of like your map. There's like the Gen 2 storage over here in Data Factory and notebooks. So we cut a chunk out of it in a mighty pretty much 3 weeks of class and then project and final. Here's what we focused on in this class. I like this one too. We focused on the managed services, data and intelligence services like machine learning and AI services. We also focused on storage and then data compute, things like Data Factory and Synapse Analytics. And we didn't do anything much in Spark. We used Spark SQL, I think maybe once, but there's Spark in there also. But this is what we did for the most part. Minus really like streaming analytics and NoSQL, and HD Insight, which I consider. We covered them in this class because I just wanted there to be an awareness that they exist, but we didn't go deep into them because I consider them to be really specific use cases, which you can learn more about yourself in the future when the time comes. So which is also why I put these questions in the final exam, just to say, hey, when would you use HD Insight or something like that, or NoSQL solution? I think it's more important to like recognize the solution in the use case and then be like, oh, we could use HD Insight, and then you figure out how to use HD Insight to solve the problem. That's what a lot of engineers do. The management group, or Azure terminology, where we did the management group, subscriptions, resource groups, and resources. We went through a lot of that. Important to remember how It's structured within Azure. Then some just additional storage terminology. Actually talked longer on that than I thought I would, but there's a bit to cover. Just really wanted to thank everyone for your patience this time around. I did the best I could, I think it turned out well. So I wanted to like share my vision there in the last class on kind of like why I put it together the way I did and what your future learning path is here. And honestly, some of it just came together as I was putting things together, but there is always a higher vision of like, okay, what can we cover in this, and like what do I think is like the most important things that you could take away from this class to have like a core knowledge that you need to be a data engineer and then continuing to build on it. And I think we covered most of it. Of course, if you find something in here that you wish you had learned more, spent more time on, I put a little feedback section in the final exam. Please feel free to do that, especially the first class. And we'll improve it here for future students. Or as Nate said, if you, as alumni, if you feel like retaking the class, of course, like when it's offered, you could do that anytime for no cost. And maybe even a better version of what we did here. But personally proud and proud of you. It takes some perseverance. Being an engineer takes some perseverance and fighting through details and mundane things. And like really appreciate your patience. Appreciated you as students. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thanks so much for your time, Jeremy. It was awesome.
You're welcome. I get my time back now. Well, like this next week I have assignments and stuff like that, but I get back a little bit of my time, at least.
It's been a lot for us, so I imagine it's been a lot for you.
No, I'm happy to do it. It's just like I can take a deep breath. I'm like, we did a good job.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hope everybody, whatever their next step is, like this helps you in the next step, or even if you become a data analyst, you have some of this perspective and you grow into it if you like, or if you don't like it, I mean, that's okay too. There are a lot of people who don't like this nuts and bolts work under it. They'd rather be data scientists, or tons of people are data analysts. And it's a pretty rewarding, it can be a rewarding job too. And you get recognized by people a little bit more instead of spending all your time in a cube, locked in a cube, solving problems. Hopefully you have a window view at least if you're doing it. Like Brenda said, she's like, I'm not sure I could do this. I'm too much of a people person. But I told her, being an engineer, if you're a really good engineer, you're still a little bit of a people person because you're trying to understand their challenges and problems and work with them to do the right solution. But yes, there's a lot of time just at the computer, hacking away and solving problems and engineering things underneath the covers. It's a well-paying job and rewarding job. It can be a little stressful sometimes if things break, but so is life as an engineer, I guess. And I give a recommendation on classes too, of anybody who would like to continue down the path, being a data engineer. Happy to, if anybody wants to reach out, happy to continue to give them advice on that anytime. I'll be doing more and more of it myself. Once people find out you can engineer these solutions, become valuable in doing it. Even if I consider myself to be like a data scientist, I built these skills, and businesses need these skills, maybe even more so than like the AI and the advanced analytics stuff. I'd say more. There's a lot of places have data and don't even know where to start. Or you have to build these things too. Right. So that's it for the class. Anybody questions or comments on anything in the last slide? I have a couple updates for you, but these will always, this would be like a good go-to for like your table of contents going forward. And I'll update these and continue to update class content and stuff like that too. So you can always go back and refer to it.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Hope all this knowledge like serves you well in the future. That's always my goal of the class.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Right. Thanks everyone. It's been good. And it will only get better from here. So appreciate you. I'll end the stream and we'll go ahead and answer like any questions about homework or projects. I still, even though I talked for a while, I'll still have 2 hours to do that. So as you're finishing up final exams and everything, feel free to ask some questions too. All right, so that concludes this class for final class for Cloud Solutions and API integrations. Hope this information really provided everyone a good overview of cloud computing. And I didn't even mention the AIP or the REST API piece, but how REST APIs also fit into this engineering. It is like a key piece of engineering, like pipelines that are more dynamic and being able to go out and get those data sources and then being able to deploy kind of like the analytics that you do within an organization and interface between systems. That's its own engineering task too, but using Microsoft Azure. So Jeremy Bergman, the instructor for the class, and good luck to everyone. Signing off.